June 8, 1966, a single tornado near Topeka, Kansas stayed on the ground for 28 miles and killed 17 people. The setup that morning looked almost exactly like what I am staring at right now on today's models. A deep negatively tilted trough, a strong low-level jet, and a cap about to break across the northern plains. That was 60 years ago. Today that same recipe is back, and the week ahead is the most active stretch since April. I want to be straight with you. I am concerned about what I see lined up for the next 5 days. May was one of the quietest severe weather months in recent memory, and that quiet period is about to end abruptly. What concerns me most is that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday each have enhanced risks already posted this far out. That kind of back-to-back-to-back elevated risk at 5 days out is something this channel does not take lightly. So let me walk you through what today looks like, and then we will work through the week day by day together. Right now we have 3 separate severe weather areas active simultaneously across the United States and southern Canada. The enhanced risk sits across Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota. That is level 3 out of 5 on the SPC scale. Down south, WPC has issued a flash flood emergency for northeastern Texas, southern Oklahoma, and southwestern Arkansas. And a marginal risk stretches from the Ozarks clear through Richmond, Virginia for scattered wind and hail potential. Gary farms wheat outside Rapid City and told me his fields are already showing stress from last week's hail damage. Gary, the cap breaks in your area around 4 this afternoon, and when it does, those storms will be explosively severe. Tell me in the comments what your sky looks like right now. I need your eyes on the ground today. People in the Dakotas, Montana, and Wyoming. Your reports this afternoon will help everyone watching track this outbreak. Let me start in the northern plains because the Saskatchewan and Manitoba situation is the most alarming part of today. The significant tornado parameter near Brandon, Manitoba, is running at 10, a number I rarely see on any map. For context, an STP of 10 means every single ingredient for violent tornadoes is maximized at the same time and place. No joke, the last time I saw STP values this high was April 2011, the Tuscaloosa and Joplin tornado outbreak. We are fortunate that today's highest values are centered over a sparsely populated region of the Canadian prairies. But make no mistake, 1 or 2 of those Canadian supercells will eventually track southward into the Dakotas tonight. By 8 to 10 tonight, the remnant squall line pushes through Grand Forks and Fargo with 70 to 80-mile winds. North Dakotans should not relax just because the worst stays in Canada. The overnight wind threat is real and damaging. Now let me pivot south because while Canada is dealing with tornadoes, Texas and Oklahoma are dealing with a different crisis. Training thunderstorms have been looping over the same neighborhoods near Dallas, Fort Worth, and the DFW Metroplex. When storms train, each new cell drops 2 to 3 inches per hour over ground that the previous cell already soaked. The WPC is showing 3 to 5 inches of additional rainfall possible across northeastern Texas before Sunday is over. That puts communities near Dallas, Tyler, Texarkana, and Fort Smith, Arkansas in serious flash flood danger this afternoon. Flood watches are already in place across Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas as of this morning. Turn around and do not drown 6 inches of flowing water, folks. Can sweep a car clean off the road. If you are in low-lying neighborhoods near any creek, bayou, or drainage channel in that region, watch your exits carefully. Helen is a retired accountant in Dallas whose backyard creek has been at flood stage since Thursday evening. Helen, that creek is going to be tested again today. Move anything of value off the ground floor before noon. Before I move into the week ahead outlook, let me explain something about this pattern that is driving all of this. We are entering what meteorologists call MJO Phase 8, and understanding it explains why this week is so loaded. The Madden-Julian oscillation is a pulse of enhanced convection that circles the globe on a 30 to 60-day cycle. When that pulse reaches Phase 8, it drives a more active pattern across the entire lower 48 for weeks at a time. Combined with a negatively tilted trough over the Rockies, the jet stream creates a highway for storms right over the Midwest. A negatively tilted trough is the one setup forecasters watch for when they want to see the highest tornado potential. It tilts the upper-level winds to add rotation to storm updrafts, the difference between a hailstorm and a tornado. This combination of Phase 8 plus the negatively tilted trough is exactly why Tuesday through Thursday look so dangerous. Monday itself is the relative breather in this pattern, but even the breather day has a marginal risk attached to it. Isolated severe storms will fire northeast of Denver across eastern Colorado, southwestern Nebraska, and western Kansas. A remnant boundary from Sunday sets up near Salina and Kansas City. If a storm fires on that boundary, watch out. A strong or even significant tornado would not be out of the question near Salina and Kansas City Monday evening. By midnight Monday, a squall line pushes through Lincoln, Omaha, and Sioux City with 60-mile-per-hour winds and lightning. If you live anywhere in the Northern Plains, Midwest, or Ohio Valley, what does your local station say about Wednesday? Tell me in the comments whether your local station has picked up on the midweek outbreak potential yet. Let me walk you now into Tuesday because this is where the week shifts into something more serious. Mark my words, Tuesday, June 9th already has an enhanced risk for the Dakotas at 5 days out. A 994 millibar low tracks the northern plains Tuesday evening, cranking the low-level jet across the Dakotas and Minnesota. 1 or 2 discrete supercells will form ahead of that low with the potential for large and even long-track tornadoes. Aberdeen, Jamestown, and areas east of Bismarck are in the Tuesday supercell corridor between 5 and 9 in the evening. By midnight Tuesday, those storms upscale into a line and push damaging winds through the overnight hours toward the east. The tornado threat on Tuesday is lower than Wednesday, but the hail and damaging wind threat is significant and widespread. Ruth is a retired librarian in Fargo filling water jugs today in case the power goes out midweek. Ruth, that is exactly the right call, filling jugs now before Tuesday is exactly what preparedness looks like. And now let me give Wednesday the attention it deserves because this is the day that has me most concerned this week. Wednesday, June 10th is the kind of day forecasters talk about with the word ceiling, meaning how bad could it get? The ceiling on Wednesday is high, and I want to walk you through exactly why that is in plain language. A low-level jet from the southwest will carry dew points in the upper 60s across the entire upper Midwest. The negatively tilted trough overhead adds the rotation potential that converts a hail and wind day into a tornado day. The SPC already has a level 3 enhanced risk up for Minneapolis, Rochester, Eau Claire, and Appleton, Wisconsin. A large slight risk covers all of Minnesota, most of Iowa, northwest Illinois, and much of Wisconsin. Heads up the corridor I am watching hardest for tornadoes runs from Minneapolis through Rochester to La Crosse. If you live in that corridor, Wednesday afternoon is not the day for a graduation party or a backyard cookout. By 7 o'clock Wednesday evening, a full squall line could stretch from Maryville, Missouri to Marquette in the Upper Peninsula. To give Wednesday's setup some historical weight, the atmospheric profile resembles the June 2010 derecho outbreak. That event swept from South Dakota to Ohio in under 8 hours, knocking out power to over 1 million homes. We are not predicting that exact outcome, but the environment has the same signature, and that is not something to dismiss. And Thursday extends the threat further east in a way that will affect a genuinely enormous number of people. Chicago, Milwaukee, Lansing, Grand Rapids, St. Louis, and Columbus all fall inside a slight risk for Thursday, June 11th. Very large hail, damaging winds, and isolated tornadoes are all possible as the cold front catches up with the storm track. Friday, the front finally pushes to the East Coast, bringing severe weather chances to a corridor from Virginia to New England. If you live east of the Appalachians, Friday is your day to stay weather aware as the trailing edge of this outbreak arrives. While all that storm activity churns across the east, the opposite story is developing rapidly along the west coast. Good Lord, a massive mid-level ridge is consolidating over the Pacific Northwest and temperatures are about to spike. Sacramento Valley is tracking toward 100 degrees Fahrenheit by Tuesday. That is not typical early June heat. That is a heat wave. Portland and Seattle will see temperatures climb to 85 to 90 degrees, which is 15 degrees above normal for early June. Pacific Northwest residents are among the least acclimatized to heat in the country. That makes this surge especially dangerous. Carol is a retired nurse in Portland who stocks ice packs every June because her neighborhood has no air conditioning. Carol, that preparation is going to matter this week, and please check on anyone over 75 on your street. Let me spend a few minutes on the tropics, not the headline story this week, but still part of the picture. The Central American Gyre continues pumping moisture northward, and that moisture is the same fuel feeding the plains flooding. The GOVS model has been consistently showing a low pressure developing near the Florida Keys around June 12th and 13th. The European ensemble is more skeptical, but still shows a moisture surge heading up the East Coast during Father's Day weekend. To be honest, the European ensemble reduced its tropical signal overnight, and that matters more than any GFS run. What I am confident about is that heavy rainfall reaches coastal Georgia, the Carolinas, and Virginia around June 14th and 15th. Name storm or not, Gulf Coast folks from Florida to North Carolina need to watch the mid-June moisture surge. Ray is a retired fisherman in Mobile who said this week's Gulf activity has him watching the water more than the TV. Ray, keep watching. Both the Gulf temperatures are warm enough to intensify any organized system in a hurry right now. Before I close, I owe you some good news, and there is real good news hiding inside this very active pattern. Behind Wednesday's outbreak, cold Canadian air surges in and drops temperatures across the Midwest by 15 to 20 degrees. By Friday and Saturday, Chicago, Minneapolis, and Detroit are back in the comfortable mid-70s with low humidity. The Great Lakes region, after the most active stretch of the month, will get a genuine and welcome 5-day break. And for the Deep South, the moisture from all this activity means widespread drought relief across Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee. Here's your direct action list for every region watching today, as specific as I can possibly make it. Northern Plains today, enhanced risk fires this afternoon if you are in Montana, Wyoming, or the Dakotas, shelter before 4. Texas and Oklahoma today, flash flooding is life-threatening turnaround. Do not drown. No road is worth your life. Monday, watch the Kansas City and Salina corridor for an isolated tornado event near any remnant storm boundary. Tuesday through Thursday, this is the most dangerous multi-day severe weather stretch since April for the Midwest and Great Lakes. Know your shelter. Keep your phone charged. Have a plan that works without the internet, plain and simple. West Coast, the heat wave arrives Tuesday. Cooling centers are open, and seniors especially need a plan before Monday night. Let me explain the atmospheric cap in more detail because understanding it is the key to understanding today's danger. Most June days, the cap holds storms back until 4 or 5 in the afternoon, then releases them in an organized way. Today's cap is unusually strong this morning, which sounds like good news, but is actually the opposite. The stronger the cap, the more energy builds underneath it, and when it finally breaks, the release is explosive. Forecasters call this a loaded gun setup. Everything is in place. The trigger is the surface temperature hitting 90 degrees. Once that trigger fires this afternoon, storms in eastern Montana and Wyoming will go from 0 to severe in under 30 minutes. Now let me give Monday more attention because I glossed over it earlier and it deserves a fuller picture. Monday is the quietest day, but quiet is relatively marginal risk during this week still means business. The central focus Monday is a dry line developing east of the Colorado Rockies from Cheyenne down through the Texas Panhandle. Storms that fire along that dry line will be isolated but discrete, exactly the kind that can produce significant hail. Amarillo and Lubbock, Texas, your storm window. Monday afternoon runs from 3 to 7 with 1-inch hail possible. And that Salina to Kansas City boundary I mentioned earlier is a wild card. The 1999 Bridge Creek tornado formed on a similar setup. Monday should be used as your preparation day for Tuesday, and Wednesday review your shelter, charge your devices, make your calls. Let me go deeper on Tuesday because the low-level jet that fires that night deserves a proper explanation. The low-level jet is a river of fast wind running 1,000 to 3,000 feet above the surface that turns on after sunset. Tuesday night, that jet will be screaming at 50 to 60 knots across the Dakotas that is near hurricane force aloft. That speed feeds moisture north rapidly, cranks wind shear, and gives any supercell the rotation it needs for long-track tornadoes. The STP values Tuesday afternoon near the Tuesday corridor are already running at 3 to 4 on the experimental models. Canada's 10 is extreme, but a 3 to 4 in June is still enough to produce significant EF2 tornadoes. On Wednesday, I want to revisit the negatively tilted trough because it is the most important element of that setup. A normally tilted trough leans northeast, it is stable, predictable, and produces straightforward severe weather. A negatively tilted trough leans southeast, it is dynamic, unstable, and dramatically increases tornado potential. Negative tilt means the upper-level winds swing clockwise as you go higher, which adds spin to every storm updraft. The classic historical example is the May 3, 1999 Oklahoma City outbreak, 36 tornadoes, 46 deaths, $1.48 billion in damage. Wednesday's trough is not that strong, but it carries the same negative tilt signature that forecasters learned to fear in 1999. Now let me spend more time on Thursday because the number of people affected that day is genuinely eye-opening. Chicago alone has nearly 9 million people in its metro area, and it sits squarely inside Thursday's slight risk corridor. Milwaukee, Rockford, Peoria, Indianapolis, and Columbus collectively represent another 8 million people in that same corridor. The primary threat Thursday is a fast-moving squall line with embedded supercells capable of 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Friday, the front finally exits the Great Lakes and sweeps through western New England with a trailing wind and rain threat. Let me go deeper on the West Coast heat because this is the story that will be dominating headlines by midweek. The ridge building over the Pacific Northwest is showing characteristics similar to the June 1981 heat wave in the region. That event saw Portland reach 104 degrees and Seattle hit 99, both all-time June records that stood for decades. We are not forecasting those extremes, but the ridge looks strong enough to push Portland above 95 and Seattle past 90. The Pacific Northwest problem is that most homes and apartments there were built without air conditioning as standard equipment. When nighttime lows only drop to 68 degrees, buildings accumulate heat day over day with no overnight recovery. On the tropical side, the interaction between El Nino and the Central American gyre is the key dynamic to understand. Normally, El Nino suppresses tropical development by pushing upper wind shear across the Atlantic basin, but that same El Nino warms the eastern Pacific, which is why Amanda developed so quickly south of Mexico this week. The moisture Amanda's remnants pump northward is part of the same stream feeding the plains flooding and the Gulf signal. Every drop of rain hitting Dallas-Fort Worth this weekend has a direct connection to that warm Pacific water. Let me be more specific on the good news because the cold air behind Wednesday is truly worth looking forward to. Thursday morning, Minneapolis wakes up to 58 degrees with northwest winds after this week. That will feel like a gift. By Friday, Chicago sees highs in the upper 60s with dew points in the 40s open window. Sit on the porch weather. The Ohio Valley, which has been dealing with flash flooding and storm threats all week, gets a clean, sunny weekend. Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh get a genuine atmospheric reset by Saturday. Honest to goodness, it will be earned. Here's the bottom line on a few more things every viewer needs to carry with them through this week. If you're in Chicago, Milwaukee, or Indianapolis Wednesday, have a shelter plan ready before leaving for work that morning. Portland and Seattle, Wednesday is the day to find an air-conditioned space or buy a portable fan for the evening. Northeastern Texas and southern Oklahoma, check your flood gauge websites every 2 hours, turn around if roads are wet. Wherever you are this week, this pattern changes fast. Check your local forecast every morning before planning your day. I started this morning with a family in Topeka in 1966 who had no warning before that tornado came through. Between that day and this one, something remarkable happened. The entire science of severe weather forecasting was rebuilt. The first dual polarization Doppler radar came online in 1988. The NOAA weather radio network reached every county by 1997. Smartphones brought real-time warnings to 90% of American adults by 2015, a revolution in 50 years. Every one of those advances happened because someone decided, flat out, the gap between a warning and a death was unacceptable. This week, that technology gets tested again across some of the most populated corridors in the Midwest and Great Lakes. Check in tonight in the comments. Tell me how your day went, and I will be back tomorrow with Tuesday's full outlook. Take care of the people near you, and we will talk again tomorrow.